Marco Polo wrote that he saw unicorns on these islands and that they were fearsome and unlike what Europe imagined unicorns to be. He also said that the islanders had been fooling him with pygmies, which they claimed were from India, but were in fact monkeys. They would take rhesus monkeys, stuff them, pluck all hair except those on the chin and chest, daub some ash and saffron, and claim them to be Indian pygmies. Much after Polo, in 2006, an American called Elizabeth Gilbert wrote about these islands in a book about her travels. You know the book, Eat, Pray and Love. In 2010, it became a movie starring Julia Roberts and made these islands even more famous and even more touristy. I'm talking about Bali. I absolutely adore Bali. Bali is what I would love Bangalore to be. Not New York, not Singapore, not Hong Kong, but Bali. I adore Bali because it has a cultural idiom I have known and with an aesthetic I've always wished for. And this cultural connect is not surprising or accidental. No, not at all. Indian merchants had been selling here for more than 2000 years around the 1st century before Common Era. Hinduism and Buddhism traveled here as well. Much of this is beautifully chronicled by Sanjeev Sanyal in his book Oceans of Churn. He talks of Bali Jathra, where even today women in Odisha float little paper boats into the Mahanadi on Kartik Purnima. This recollects a time when the women of Odisha would set off their mariner husbands who would set sail as the monsoon winds switched to blowing from the north. They would sail down to Sri Lanka and then use ocean currents to sail to Sumatra and Bali. Many centuries later, Rabeendranath Tagore would land on these islands and be blown away. Legend goes that he landed and immediately composed a poem, Sagorika, which one assumes is par for the poet's course. Tagore was blown away not by the beauty of the islands, but for the same reason I am. Tagore, who had been contemplating the idea of a shared Asian cultural identity, was suddenly confronted with a culture that was simultaneously familiar and unfamiliar. I'm not surprised. Bali is like our past frozen in time. Bali is the Mahabharata and Ramayana that my grandmother told me stories from, but in a form that is highly stylized with great cinematography and production value. Watching Balinese processions, Tagore was struck by the similarity to the frescoes of Ajanta. He spent a lot of time watching Balinese dance forms and was so impressed with how strongly the Indian epics were embedded in the Indonesian culture that he referred to the islands as Vyasa Indies. The Indianness of Bali, or for that matter, Indonesia, is striking. What is more striking is how they have preserved that Indianness and reinterpreted it with a beautiful layer of Indonesia's own culture. Have you ever wondered why the earlier president of Indonesia was called Megawati Sukarno Putri? Well, it is because when she was born, Biju Patnaik, the father of the current chief minister of Odisha, was visiting Indonesia and Sukarno, that is the first president of Indonesia, who asked him to name his newborn daughter. Patnaik saw that it was raining heavily and called her Megha, clouds, Meghavati. When he set sail to Indonesia, Tagore wrote, "We have embarked on this pilgrimage to see the signs of history of India's entry into the universal." I look around with Tagore's eyes, and what I see is stunningly beautiful.